So the course you're saying is primarily aimed at the people that are starting to recognize something's going wrong, that they can't necessarily put a hand on what it is, but they're curious to find out what it is, and then to get some tools and skills to allow them to better deal with what's going on.
I think that's um, pretty much in a nutshell.
So, Dawn, who are you?
I'm Dawn Lester. Some people know me as the co-author of a book, What Really Makes You Ill: Why Everything You Thought You Knew About Disease Is Wrong.
Brilliant book.
Um, Thank you. We also co-authored two other books. One of them is The Nature of Reality, which is an exploration of reality, consciousness, who we are, what this reality is, and it goes into some depth. And to understand who we are helps us navigate our way through this experience that we
Hmm.
call physical
Yeah.
reality, that we call life.
Yep.
And it's sort of marrying the two, and then expanding it into looking at other areas, which is what I'm moving into. It's just keeping developing my understanding and helping to sharing it with other people to help them understand who they are,
Hmm.
what they can do here in this physical realm,
Hmm. Yeah. Yeah.
which is a particular type of experience.
Yeah. Exactly.
Not going to go too deep into that, because that's a whole other
Yeah.
lengthy conversation. It is it's more than useful to know that we are more than we are made to believe we are, and that's the main point, that we're made to believe we are insignificant, and we are in fact much more powerful than we're made to believe. And so it's recognizing that power, what we can do with it, and how we can change our experiences
Hmm.
here.
Yeah. And so you've decided to create a course on that to help people. So what specifically, if you can expand on what the course would do, why did you create it?
Well, it seems to me that the world's gone pretty crazy at the moment. There's a lot of confusion, there's a lot of conflict, there's a lot of misleading information, disinformation, and it's really getting people to a state where they cannot think clearly. Of course, that's part of the objective of those who are trying to make us believe we're insignificant. And so if you're overwhelmed by all the information that you're being bombarded with on a daily basis, then you're not really capable of thinking clearly. This isn't a criticism of people. This is how we are. There's just an overload, and so people
Well, it's an
feel.
intentional overload, isn't it? So it's an effect.
Yes, and the effect is exactly how it's intended, that people aren't able to think clearly. And the problem with that is that they're not able to then feel they can create solutions, because they're just overwhelmed by all the fear and all the confusion, and they don't know what to do, and there's all these different ideas, and they don't know which path to follow, because there's so many different paths, and people are saying, oh, do this, and other people say, oh, don't do this, do this, and other people are telling them something else. And so it's a whole mixture, and in some ways, and I totally understand it, people just withdraw and just default to just carrying on with their lives without really looking at what they would like to do with their lives. They just carry on with it, and they just sort of stay in this complacency, which again is not a criticism. I mean, I was there, I've been there, I've gone through this process too, so I understand. So it's not I'm telling people, oh, this is what you should do. It's saying I've been there,
Hmm.
I'm working my way, I'm still working my way through it. Nobody's at the end. It's not a destination. There's the idea of awake, as in a destination. It's awakening, and it's a journey. It's making it an interesting journey that is important, and it's realizing that we can take the power back to ourselves, and it's learning how we can do that.
So you've created or you're offering some specific tools, mindsets, ways of approaching things that help people do that, eh?
Yes, it's to get people to recognize where the confusion lies, so that they can step back from it and view it from a different perspective, and learn to view things from a different perspective, and to then realize that they're being misled and confused deliberately, so they can kind of say, okay, right, well, I don't have to believe everything I'm being told. So it's taking people out of that state of confusion to help them come back to a feeling of more calm,
Mhm.
and therefore, again, people are able to sort of think more clearly and to recognize. And it's also to recognize that they have an inner knowing of things, but that's also being suppressed. And so it's recognizing that they should start listening to that more, because there's something there. I mean, we know when people are faced with information that conflicts with their own beliefs, they have this cognitive dissonance, and that can be a problem, because then they're sort of, well, yes, I mean, they're just conflicted, and so they have this feeling because some information just is different from what they believe. And again, belief, not necessarily know. And sometimes that inner compass is telling them, oh, that can't be right. And that doesn't mean to say what they're being told isn't right. It's just sometimes it's a question of recognizing what is an actual belief that is not necessarily based on what is true, and what is a true inner knowing, which tends to be a somewhat quieter voice behind it all. And it's starting to learn to access that, and to, clear away some of the layers of the limiting beliefs that we have. And it's not surprising we have limiting beliefs because of the education system, the way we're brought up, or indoctrination system, I should say. We know, we are limited with what we're taught. We're limited with what we are told we can do in our lives. We're not encouraged to create new ventures. We're encouraged, in the kind of sort of education system where, we have careers advice, what you're going to do, what job you're going to do, all those sorts of things. So you go out into the workplace, and
That
it's
indicates that the whole indoctrination or education system is designed purely to create workers.
indeed, and workers for the system. And there's just enough education to perform. So I mean, many people think that education only occurs in school. um yes, I've learnt more in the past 20 years than I ever did in
Yeah.
the sort of, my school years.
I guess one of the things then, based on that and based on some of the things you said and previous discussions I've had with you, that in when you're going through this course that you've put together, you're covering things like how to discern correct information as well, aren't you?
Yes, yes. I mean, we're bombarded with what's called news, and th they're quite clever, really, because there's almost always some kind of truth in there somewhere along the line.
Hmm.
Um, and
Well, that's
there's
what makes it tricky, Dawn, isn't it? When it's not the complete lies that are difficult, it's the half truths and the partial truths. They're the tricky ones to spot.
they are, and it's unfortunately one of the main things that causes people to have these different conflicts, because people have somewhat different ideas, and again, based on their own kind of belief system. So that's why you've got people, viewing the same information and coming up with different interpretations. So it's for people to recognize that they can um, look at information, and they don't have to accept it as true, and just go on social media and have these conversations and battles, and and that's another place that causes all this conflict. And so people don't know what to believe, they don't know what's real. And again, this is for people to again, we're always taught "Oh, you have to take a side, it's either this or that."
So there's always
And
that dialectic choice, isn't it?
absolutely. And really, sometimes neither is true.
Yeah, that's right.
Again, my when I was, still, I don't know, teens, early 20s, whatever, just a number of different conversations where there were two conflicting or two opposing views or people having a debate. And I could often see both sides, but not necessarily agree with either, and I thought, oh, you're just sitting on the fence. Well, that's actually okay, because if you do that, then you have the opportunity to really look at what's being said and assess it for yourself calmly.
Mhm.
And that's how you're able to then look at what you're being told, look at the information, and to be able to get a better sense of what feels true.
Mhm.
And again, that may be in line with certain belief systems you may have. It's to recognize whether it's something that is true or is it just sort of supports a belief you have. So that could, I mean, that could apply to so many different areas where you've got people who are, different mindsets in terms of the way they approach money, for example. Very the kind of spiritual people have a very negative view of money,
Mhm.
and at the same time, it's to recognize it's a tool. But if you have a negative view of money, then you're going to um, be fighting against anything that's necessarily generating money, which is a resource to be able to do things.
But it is in the way
Um,
that the system is currently structured. It's a little hard to get by without it. It's possible, So right now, I mean, I found myself there for such a long time. I didn't want anything to do with it, having made a load of
mm,
it. And it is, you're right. It's just a tool. In the right hands, it's a useful tool, and in the other hand, it's a weapon.
absolutely, and it's sort of the case with everything, really. Even technology. People say, "Oh, don't use technology." At the same time, it's an extremely useful tool that we wouldn't be having this conversation without it. So I think it's just the idea that everything's got to be either good or bad, and it's to say, well, it's a question of how you approach everything, and really that's it with all information. It's how you approach it. So it's to come from a different perspective, or to learn a different perspective, so you can approach the information from a place of feeling um, somewhat calmer,
Yes.
and then you can assess it more clearly. You can gain some more clarity. You can gain insights and ideas, and it's a question of what you choose to then do with that information. If it's useful for you in your life, then yeah, great.
Mhm.
Uh,
I think
I-
also when you can more accurately assess information, that you're able to make better choices and have a better quality of life. That's been my experience, that you can look, you can work it all through and then say, well, actually, that's not serving me at all. But if I use it that way, it can.
yes, and when people are in this state of fear and confusion and just feeling so overwhelmed, that they just don't have that clarity to assess the information, and it's to help people gain some inner inner, let's say inner peace sounds a little bit too
Balance,
woo.
maybe harmony.
Yes, I mean it is to have that calmer sense, or to be able to get back to a place of feeling calmer, so you can step back from all the conflict, and realize that it's okay. And it's also for people to realize that it's okay not to even engage. You don't have to engage in all these battles,
Yeah.
when they seem to be battles.
Yeah. Well, it's all about that.
It's
That's why you have police force, armed forces. It's all about force, about conflict, about battle. And it
exactly,
doesn't have to be that way.
exactly. And it's to encourage people to have conversations with other people instead of just um, arguments on something that might be just a minor point. It's to actually, it's there's nothing wrong with having a discussion from different perspectives, and because you can you can each gain different insights, or all of you can gain different insights, and that's the thing with collaboration. which is very different from debate. So if we've got a different perspective, that's fine, and we can still have discussions.
Mhm.
It's when when it's perceived that we have to take sides. Oh, you're either with us or against us. I mean, that's the whole point, and it just generates conflict.
Mm.
And we've
By
got
the way,
quite a
when I get asked that question, which side are you on? I usually say my own,
mm,
because then I can
yes,
sit wherever I want.
precisely. Um, yes. Who says I have to take a side? Yes, I mean
Right.
that's the whole point.
Yeah.
That's the whole point, and it's recognizing you don't.
Yeah.
You can actually, I mean, this this is quite courageous for people, because it's just the opposite of what we're kind of encouraged to be and what we're told
Well,
how things.
right down to everything. The sports, there's so many team sports. Everything is pushed that it's us and them, us and them. It's this versus that all the time. There's very few collaborative things in the entertainment industry. So
Mm,
that suggests to me that that's, it's one of the ways they manipulate people's minds that way.
yes, yes, and it's a standard thing, obviously, and certainly in football or soccer, as the Americans call it. It's that's a tradition
Yeah.
in the UK. The
Yeah.
football teams, and you've got your team, and they actually fight each other over a ball game. They
Yep.
get in a fight, you know. I mean, not everyone's doing it. Is, as you say, it is encouraged. At the same time, let's sit down and have a discussion, and you've got your view, I've got mine. That's great. And at the same time, there could be lots of things that you agree with. And the good aspect, I say good again, it's not subjective, but the beneficial aspect of having different ideas is that when you work together, you can actually create something that is better because you've got everybody's input. Whereas everyone, we can't survive and thrive on our own in isolation. And
Despite being
that's
encouraged to.
yeah, exactly. That's the whole point. It's like, oh, isolation. Not going to go into that one, but the last few years has, crazy though the world has been, it's actually encouraged a lot of people to really start looking at things differently. Um, and it's to say, look, a lot of us have already been there, and it's not to say, oh well, we've been there, we're ahead. It's not that at all. It's just that from the position that we're in, we can reach out a welcoming hand and say, it's okay, we're here. And the chances are these people who are just beginning their journey of awakening, or maybe they've known for a while there's something wrong, but not been able to really externalize or express it or even engage with people because they don't know what's going on, where to look, because it just all looks like such a mess.
Mhm.
Um, but they may have been starting to already look at different things and have some different ideas. So they may well have lots of really good ideas that, you know, those of us who've been on this journey a bit longer haven't even thought of. So it's, pooling resources, working together, collaboration. This, it's not everyone's the same.
Well,
It's
absolutely. I mean, you've got, sorry for interjecting there.
yeah,
You've got the territory, which is what's outside going on, and then you've got your internalized map you've made of the territory, but it's based on your beliefs, your experience, your view, your perspective. If I, like you and I, have great conversations, you throw your side on. So now we've got two views, we get three and four views. We can better triangulate how the territory is actually laid out.
yes, and expand our own experiences by releasing the ideas and beliefs and that are limiting us and what we can actually experience and what we can create. I mean, with my experiences, I've recognized that as I've changed how I perceive, as I've basically kind of reduced limiting beliefs,
Mhm.
I am changing my experiences, and that's one of the reasons I want to share what I've been through, and also what I'm learning. And it's not to say I know it. I'm not like a teacher, but it's sharing what's possible to help people kind of get to the point where they can say,
Mhm.
oh, okay, or do you know, I thought that, but they just didn't have the courage of their convictions to be able to do something with it. They just
Yeah. So the course you're saying is primarily aimed at the people that are starting to recognize something's going wrong, that they can't necessarily put a hand on what it is, but they're curious to find out what it is, and then to get some tools and skills to allow them to better deal with what's going on.
I think that's um, pretty much in a nutshell. And it's not to go through all the different agendas or anything like that, because that's what's overwhelming them. It's actually to give them the tools, the confidence, um, the steps to take to recognize, you know, uh, what is being thrown at them from in terms of sort of information or whatever other people are saying, whether it's come from the mainstream or even discussions with friends and family, when people are having a different um, viewpoints and it's getting a bit heated. It's, they don't have to engage with that, and it's also to have to ask questions, to have discussions, to exchange perspectives, and to do it from just a different place.
Goodness me,
So,
you're talking about having an adult conversation there.
oh yes. Mm. Yes, well, that's the point.
Yeah.
We're encouraged to stay as children, to rely on these experts, the authorities, defer to them. The default position is, oh, just, do what they say. No. And it takes courage to say, actually, I'm going to step into my own power.
Yeah.
And, it's to say it's not necessarily easy to start, but there are some steps that we can take, and it's obviously there'll be a group of people, so we'll be doing it together, so they'll recognize they're not on their own.
Yeah. Yeah. Good.
And that's the other thing of being, people feel they're on their own, there's nobody else around them, and what can we do? So, and because some people are awake and they're off somewhere else, and other people are what are called asleep. I mean, I'm not
The
I'm not
disparaging terms,
a fan of
both of
these.
them, really. Yeah.
I'm not a fan of these terms. I mean, there are some people who just are happy to turn a blind eye to anything and just carry on, and just that's fine if that's
Fine.
their choice.
Yeah.
It's just to say, if people are wanting to develop a way of develop a new approach to all of this, so that they can really assess what's going on,
Yeah.
start having a sense of clarity, and to kind of get a little bit of sanity back, really.
Brilliant. So my next question then is, there's two things going on. You have a kind of introductory free talk, I guess, and then the course after that. Could you talk a little bit about when that is?
The workshop, and I've just called it a workshop because there'll be a presentation. There will also be an opportunity for people to ask questions.
Yeah. It's
Um,
being done by, I presume, Zoom, is it?
It'll be a Zoom. It's a Zoom call, 90 minutes on Saturday, this Saturday, which is the 27th of January. The timing, just so I can kind of cover as many people, it's 9 a.m. US Pacific time, 12 noon Eastern US, so 5 p.m. UK time.
Right. It's good.
We'll be sharing a sign-up page for people to register. So when they register, then they'll receive information and the Zoom link. They'll receive the Zoom link, and they'll be able to join, share that around, and encourage anybody else I think will be interested to come along. Really, where I'll be going over. I mean, it's going to be fairly packed with material. I'll be going through sort of 6 steps to help people to really take that process, go on that journey, go on that process of
Hmm.
starting to recognize what's going on, and why they feel the way they do, and how they can then change their approach. There'll be some information in there. It's not overloaded with information, because the whole point is to help people out of overwhelmed. So I don't plan to overwhelm them with information, but more with guidance and the steps that they can take,
Mhm.
and sort of be able to talk about what they can actually then implement and start looking at things from a different perspective. The whole thing of, so much of what's going on is fear mongering, and so from a
Yeah.
place of fear, you be kind of paralyzed. Your nervous system is on hyper all the time, and it's not then a place to be able to make clear decisions. And
Mhm.
that's the point, to you know get some clarity back
Mhm.
in our ability to think and then put it into action. I mean,
Yeah.
it's not just about, oh, well, that's interesting information. People then need to implement it and to start using the tools.
Mhm. Okay. That's brilliant. And I presume then that the main course is what, 2 weeks after that?
The main course starts 2 weeks after that on the 10th of February again,
And what is the structure of
Saturday.
that course?
The structure of the course is really the 6 steps,
Mhm.
taking each of the six steps in
Is
more
it
depth.
in one hit or is it spread out?
It's spread out over six Saturdays, starting on
Mhm.
the 10th of February, and the same timings. And so there'll be 6
Okay.
consecutive Saturdays where each week we'll go through each of the steps in more depth. And again, interactive, so people will be able to ask questions.
Mhm.
There will also be a private Telegram group for people to interact with each
Mhm.
other, and with me, of course, as well.
Mhm.
It's not a teaching platform, but it's for sharing experiences and questions and
Yeah.
helping each other. And it's, to create a community of people who are going through the same process and
Mhm.
support each other,
Okay. And
because that's,
each module, as it were, would be what, 90 minutes again?
again, the 90 minutes each module. As I say, same timing on a Saturday, 90 minutes.
And people will have access to the recorded modules afterwards, I guess.
Within the course, yes,
Yes, within the course. Yeah.
yes,
Yeah.
they'll be recorded, and they'll be then uploaded into the course portal through
Mhm.
the Kajabi system. So they'll be able to, yes, they'll be able to replay. So if
Brilliant.
anyone just can't make one of the Saturdays, they will have access to the information. They'll have access to the replay and to, sort of ongoing discussions as well. What is the benefit? What are people going to get from what I'm offering? Is
Mhm.
I'd like to think it'll be some clarity of thought, restoring some sanity, and being able to approach what we are dealing with on a daily basis from a more balanced, measured, a more peaceful, rather than agitation. Agitation just gets in the way of being able to think clearly, because if you're just running around, you just I can't think, and that's the point. That's why it's all fear mongering and overwhelm, and it's this and it's this and this is coming down the pipe, and there's all this happening, and there's wars, and I'm not denying what's I'm not denying reality. It's a question of how you look at it, how you approach it. And again, it's all about conflict. And we have to say, no, okay, if that's what's being pushed at us, then the solution is to find the peace. So it's not always, and that's the other problem. Of course, people say, oh, well, everything, the mainstream, the mainstream's all lies. Well, not necessarily. So again, it's having these very definitive, very definite statements that, oh, this is this and that's that. Not necessarily. It's to just take a step back from these absolutes,
Mhm.
like this is good, that's bad.
Mhm.
It's not always the case. It's staying in that balanced place. It's not sitting on the fence. It's actually just stepping back and saying, okay, that's what is going on. How do I feel about it? What do I want to do about it? Does it serve me? Can I do anything about it? If you can't do anything about it, then what is it going to serve you to engage in it all? And it's not about being selfish. It's about realizing what you can do something about and taking the actions where there is something that you can do something about.
One question we haven't covered, by the way, how much is it?
Ah, the workshop on Saturday is free, although, you know, there's an option if people wish to donate. I mean, that's, but it's entirely optional, but, you know, it is free to attend, and the replay will be shared publicly. So people get access to the replay link, and it'll be shared publicly to, you know, for other people to get the insights, hopefully. The 6-week course is $750. I priced it dollars because I'm sort of assuming that that maybe, you know, Americans, I don't
Most
know.
of
I
my
mean,
watch comes from America.
yes. Same for me, I believe. I mean, there are people in the UK and in Europe. That translates to something like £600 sterling. So you know, so that's, as I say, the 6 weeks, so the 6 actual webinar, well, the course modules, so 6 modules, with the Telegram group running for the duration of the course, and also it'll be running in an aftercare program for 3 months afterwards. So it's not a question of just letting people, oh, okay, well, here's the 6 weeks, okay, off you go. It's to give them some ongoing support.
Well, that makes sense because what you're offering many people is going to be a start point. And I think one of the
Mm,
most important things you're doing is if you build a building without putting a proper foundation down, it's not going to be as stable as if you lay a good solid foundation on which you can then construct lots of things. And that's what you're talking about doing, is giving people, helping them create a nice solid foundation for themselves. You're not doing it for them, they're going to do it for themselves. But with access to information, tools, ideas, and a support system, as you learn the skills in order to do that, which will then set you up to do all sorts of things.
yes, and that's an extremely important point you just made. I'm not telling people what to do. They have to um, take the steps for themselves. This is helping people empower themselves.
Hmm.
I can't empower people. People have to do that for themselves. And again, people will be at different stages. So again, it's with you know, it'll be a community, whatever the group is that joins the course, you know, we'll be supporting each other. You know, that's the point of supporting and helping, because everyone's coming from a different space, from a different place, with a different background, and you know, I'm definitely open to the idea that, you know, I'll be learning things from them as well, you
Of
know,
course you will. Every
just
day is a school day, you know that.
absolutely, absolutely. Yes. Yes. Yeah. No, I mean, absolutely. This whole experience is a learning journey, and that's the point of using the word awakening.
Hmm.
Um, and again, you know, it's awakening to understanding who you are, what you are, and what you can do. It's all very well having the information. It's then what action you take
Hmm.
to have the experience to put it into effect. And that's really that's the game changer, not just learning stuff, because learning about the problems with this, that, and the other system, you go, okay, well, what do I do with it? What do I do with that information?
Well, I think one of the problems, Dawn, is that if you get the information about what's wrong but don't know what to do with it, in many ways it'd be better not to know that, because it'd just be such an uncomfortable position.
Mm, totally frustrating, and again, overwhelming. And I don't think everyone needs to know all the information, everything that's wrong with all these different systems.
I don't even think you could even establish what was wrong because there's so much of it and it goes so deep.
It is, and it's impossible. I mean, it is literally impossible to learn everything about all these different systems. I think it's enough to know that there are problems with these systems. Therefore, we may need to have a different approach to creating a new, better, beautiful world that we, you know, and it's just implementing solutions to go, well, if that's the problem,
Yeah.
okay, that's a problem. Now, what do we do about it? Let's create some solutions. You know, I mean, I suppose if you're met with aggression everywhere, you know, that's uncomfortable. You know, and people are just telling you what to do. And again, it's not to see these people with the, in certain positions that make them think they are the authority, is to actually see them as an authority or an expert or something. You say, well, okay, that's what you say. I'll look into it.
Try, yeah.
I mean, I know we have all sorts of different situations that are, can be uncomfortable. It's to, that standard phrase of, feel the fear and do it anyways, is actually to say, okay, well, this is an opportunity for me to learn something about myself. And whatever you do is right. It's not to kind of, oh, I've done it wrong. Well, no, that's where you were at the time. Another day you may respond differently because every day is a school day. Every day is a learning opportunity that you can be different in a different day, and responding, although you almost never have exactly the same experience. It will always be different because there's no point repeating anything. It's also to recognize that we are all unique, beautifully unique. We may have similarities. Some are more, sometimes more similar than others. At the same time, we are unique, and it's to recognize that uniqueness. So we've each got something to contribute to what's going on. It's that we're all, we're not the same. We are unique individuals. We are all individuals, and we can learn how to cooperate, collaborate, and always, if you encourage people to find their talent and utilize that, you'll always get the best out of them. Whereas, in these kind of workplaces, well, that's your list of jobs, and whether you like doing that or not, it doesn't matter.
Mm-hmm.
But if somebody who's a good manager will recognize what people's different strengths are, and then they'll encourage them to work to their strengths, and then you'll really get results.
Oh, definitely, yeah.
Mm.
Dawn, that was amazing.